जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी। गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
गोपी जन वल्लभ गिरिवरधारी।
यशोदानंदन ब्रज जनरंजन।
यशोदानंदन व्रज जनरंजन।
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 यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तेरा वनचारी।
यमुना तीरावनचारी।
यमुना तेरा वनचारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी।
जय राधा माधव कुंज बिहारी।
हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
कृष्ण हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे। हरे राम 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 हरे हरे।
जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम। जय कृष्ण बलराम।
जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम। जय कृष्ण बलराम।
जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय। जय गौरानिताय।
जय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय गौरानिताय। जय गौरानिताय।
जय राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधे।
जय राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधा कृष्ण चंद्र राधे।
जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे।
जय राधे जय राधे जय राधे जय श्री राधे।
जय प्रभु परा जय प्रभु परा प्रभु परा जय प्रभु परा।
जय प्रभु पदा प्रभु पदा प्रभु पदा जय प्रभु पदा।
जय ओम विष्णुपाद परमहंस परिव्राजकाचार्य अष्टोत्तर शतश्री श्रीमद His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Samsthapakacharya, Savior of the whole world, Vishwa Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottama Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayesha Bhadresho Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 8. Lord Krishna shows the universal form. Text number 45. Traya cha Upanishadbhihi cha Traya chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaihi cha Satvatai Sankhya Yogaischa Satvatai Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Sa Amanyata Atmajam Harim Sa Manyatatmajam Traya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaischa Satvataihi Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam Traya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaischa Satvataihi Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam Traya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaischa Satvataihi Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam Traya Chopanishadbhischa Sankhya Yogaischa Satvataihi Upagiyamana Mahatmyam Harim Samanyatatmajam Traya. By studying the three Vedas, Sama, Yajur, and Atharva. Cha, also, Upanishadbhihi cha. And by studying the Vedic knowledge of the Upanishads, Sankhya Yogai. By reading the literature of Sankhya Yoga, Cha and Satvatai, by the great sages and devotees, or by reading Vaishnava Tantra, Pancharatras, Upagiyamana Mahatmyam, whose glories are worshipped by all these Vedic literatures. Harim, unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sa, she, referring to Yashoda. Amanyata, considered, ordinary. Atmajam, as her own son. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are studied through the three Vedas, the Upanishads, the literature of Sankhya Yoga, and other Vaishnava literature. Yet, Mother Yashoda considered that Supreme Person her ordinary child. Please repeat this translation after me. The glories of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are studied through the three Vedas, the Upanishads, the literature of Sankhya Yoga, and other Vaishnava literature. Yet, Mother Yashoda considered that Supreme Person her ordinary child. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 15.15 by the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna, the purpose of studying the Vedas is to understand Him. Vedaischa sarvair ahameva vedyaha. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami that there are three purposes in the Vedas. One is to understand our relationship with Krishna, Sambandha. Another is to act according to that relationship, Abhidheya. And the third is to reach the ultimate goal, Prayojana. The word Prayojana means necessities, and the ultimate necessity is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Prema Pumartho Mahan. The greatest necessity for a human being is the achievement of love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Here we see that Mother Yashoda is on the highest stage of necessity, for she is completely absorbed in love for Krishna. In the beginning, the Vedic purpose is pursued in three ways, Trayi, by Karma Kanda, Jnana Kanda, and Upasana Kanda. When one reaches the complete perfect stage of Upasana Kanda, one comes to worship Narayana or Lord Vishnu. When Parvati asked Lord Mahadeva, Lord Shiva, what is the best method of Upasana or worship? Lord Shiva answered, Aradhananam sarvesham Vishnor aradhanam param. Vishnu Upasana or Vishnu Aradhana, worship of Lord Vishnu, is the highest stage of perfection as realized by Devaki. But here Mother Yashoda performs no Upasana, for she has developed transcendental ecstatic love for Krishna. Therefore, her position is better than that of Devaki. In order to show this, Srila Vyasadeva enunciates this verse, Traya Chopanishadbhihi, etc. When a human being enters into the study of the Vedas to obtain Vidya, knowledge, he begins to take part in human civilization. Then he advances further to study the Upanishads and gain Brahma Jnana, impersonal realization of the absolute truth. And then he advances still further to Sankhya Yoga in order to understand the supreme controller who is indicated in Bhagavad Gita, Param Brahma, Param Dhama, Pavitram, Paramam Bhavan, Purusham, Shashwatam. When one understands that Purusha, the supreme controller, to be Paramatma, one is engaged in the method of yoga. Dhyanavasti tatadgatena manasa pashyanti yam yoginaha. But Mother Yashoda has surpassed all these stages. She has come to the platform of loving Krishna as her beloved child, and therefore she is accepted to be on the highest stage of spiritual realization. The absolute truth is realized in three features. Brahmeti Paramatmeti Bhagavan iti Shabdyate. But she is in such ecstasy that she does not care to understand what is Brahman, what is Paramatma, what is Bhagavan. Bhagavan has personally descended to become her beloved child. Therefore, there is no comparison to Mother Yashoda's good fortune as declared by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Ramya kachid upasana vrajavadhu vargena ya kalpita. The absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, may be realized in different stages. As the Lord says in Bhagavad Gita 4.11, Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyaham mama vartmanu vartante manushya partha sarvashah. As men surrender unto me, I reward them accordingly. Everyone follows my path in all respects, O son of Pritha. One may be a karmi, a jnani, a yogi, and then a bhakta or prema bhakta. But the ultimate stage of realization is prema bhakti, as actually demonstrated by Mother Yashoda. Thus ends the Bhakti Vedanta purport. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatari. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Dvaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhayate girim yat kripatamaham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam yat kripatamaham vande Paramananda Madhavam yat kripatamaham vande Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa tubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So this chapter describing the pastime, the Leela, Krishna showing his universal form to Mother Yashoda in his own mouth. This has got a lot of lessons for us to learn, that even when Krishna performs his Leela as a small child, his position as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his personal abode with his personal devotees, pure devotees, his intimate devotees, is the highest stage of perfection, spiritual perfection, to be achieved by all of us. This is what Srila Vyasadeva is pointing out in this verse. After describing the Leela of Krishna showing the universal form, his universal form in the mouth to Mother Yashoda, what is the purpose for Krishna to show that? It is not for the sake of Yashoda. It is not for the sake of any devotee in Krishna's personal abode. It's not for the perfected devotees. It's for those who are seeking perfection and those who are lost in this material world in ignorance. For all such people, Vyasadeva was compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam after having compiled all the other Vedic literature. His final work is the Srimad Bhagavatam. And this Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled by Vyasadeva when he felt some incompleteness in all the work he had done in compiling all the other Vedic literature. His work is very, very elaborately done in terms of compiling the Vedic literature. First of all, he put down the Vedas in writing. That means before Vyasadeva put it in writing, Vedas were taught, received, learnt by oral transmission. Shruti. Therefore, Vedas are called Shruti. The original Vedas are called Shruti. Shruti means that which is heard. Shravana. So formerly there was no need of books. Written form, it was not required. Why? Because the human beings, their memory power was very good. That they hear something once, they'll remember that accurately, perfectly for the rest of their life, at least. So, at the beginning of creation, Krishna revealed the Vedic knowledge to the first created being in this universe, Lord Brahma. Brahma was born from the navel of Vishnu. And Brahma, when he took birth, he could not understand what is the purpose of his taking birth. He tried to search out the source of his birth, and he was unable to ascertain the source, nor could he understand what he's supposed to do. He was all alone. Of course, he was not alone, but he could not see Vishnu from whom he had taken birth. So then Brahma was directed by Vishnu to perform tapasya. Just two letters Brahma heard, tapa, tapa. And he understood he has to perform tapasya, he has to perform meditation. So he engaged in meditation, and Lord Vishnu revealed to him his actual transcendental form, the source of Brahma's birth, was revealed to Brahma. And then Vishnu enlightened Brahma from within his heart. He enlightened him in the Vedic knowledge. The entire original Vedas were taught to Brahma from within his heart by Lord Vishnu. Because the same Vishnu is situated in every living being's heart, including Brahma's heart, as the Paramatma. So the Lord as Paramatma within Brahma's heart revealed to Brahma the entire Vedic knowledge. Brahma became enlightened, and then he began his work of the secondary creation. The Supreme Lord does the primary creation. He begins the process of creation. And after that, after he does create the 16 elements, Shodasha Kalam, that's described in the Bhagavatam in the beginning of the first canto, that the Supreme Lord, who is eternally present in the spiritual world, he incarnates as Mahavishnu in the material world. And after he incarnates, then he begins the process of creation by his glance on the dormant material energy, in which, inside the material energy, there are the material elements in their unmanifest stage, avyakta. This is briefly given in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna explains that matter consists of 24 elements. See, the Bhagavad Gita contains everything, but it is given in a very concise way. So it's difficult to understand unless explained by the Acharya. That's why Acharyas have written commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, explained the Bhagavad Gita elaborately. And as far as understanding the Bhagavad Gita, for those who don't know the other languages, only know English, Srila Prabhupada has explained that Bhagavad Gita elaborately in the English language. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is explained by Krishna, matter consists of 8 elements. That is one explanation, the 7th chapter. But in the 13th chapter, Krishna explains matter consists of 24 elements. That means a more detailed explanation of what is matter. So these elements are there in the material energy, in a dormant state, in an unmanifest state. So therefore, Krishna says in the 13th chapter, matter consists of 23 elements plus one element, which is the unmanifest state of matter itself, avyakta. So that avyakta is the only thing that is there. Matter is there in the unmanifest state before the creation happens. And Mahavishnu, the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord in this material world, he glances throws his glance and agitates this avyakta matter, unmanifested of matter, material energy. And material energy becomes activated. It becomes activated in 2 ways, 3 ways actually. One way material energy is activated is the 3 gunas are activated by the glance of Mahavishnu. Material nature is now working to produce so many changes. How are these changes taking place? By the action of the 3 gunas. By the action of the 3 gunas. These 3 gunas, Sattva guna, Rajoguna, Tamoguna, are actually the energy portion of matter or material energy. And the elements like earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, ego, these elements, 8 elements of which our body is made. These elements are acted upon by the 3 gunas to produce all the changes that we see. Continuously, these gunas are working to change the material configuration. It's all explained in the Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter, in the 13th chapter, the 14th chapter. Everywhere it's explained in the Bhagavad Gita, many, many places. But a detailed explanation is given in the Bhagavatam. So Vyasadeva, after compiling the Vedas, he put the Vedas in writing because in Kali Yuga he could foresee people's memory will be short-lived. When Kali Yuga begins, there is so much deterioration in the human beings. Their duration of life is shortened. Their memory power reduces. Their intelligence becomes weaker or lesser. People in Kali Yuga are less intelligent than people who were living in the previous yugas. So therefore, there is a necessity that the Vedas have to be put in writing. So just before the advent of Kali Yuga, end of Dwapar Yuga, the Supreme Lord incarnated as Vyasadeva. So Vyasa himself is an empowered incarnation, Shaktya-vesha avatara of the Supreme Lord, for the sake of putting the Vedas in writing. But that's not enough, putting the Vedas in writing. Because the Vedas are very vast. All knowledge is, Veda means knowledge. So can anybody measure how much is there in terms of knowledge available, at least for the human beings? You cannot even comprehend, cannot even conceive how much knowledge is there. There's so much that the scientists are going on analyzing what is nature, what is going on in nature, what's happening, what are the different phenomena. The creation itself is so vast. They can't even complete studying this one planet, Earth planet. And then foolishly they are trying to go to some higher planets. First of all, they are not understood who they are and what is this nature or what is this world in which we are living. They have no idea in terms of the fundamental understanding of what things are. They have little knowledge, by their analysis, by their study, by their speculation, by their observation, using their limited intelligence, whatever they can understand or figure out, they've done that. And this will continue because you cannot put a limit on what is knowledge, how much is there to know. It's actually unlimited. Jnana is unlimited knowledge. So, if something is unlimited, then it becomes, at least for a sane person, for a sensible person, it is very clear that one cannot go on studying, or trying to discover knowledge more and more and more, and come to the end of all knowledge. Therefore, Vyasadeva, after he compiled the Vedas, first of all, he saw that the Vedas are very vast and there's no possibility of the human beings in Kali Yuga studying the entirety of the Vedas. So, he divided the one Veda into 4 parts: Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, Tharma Veda. And then he gave the philosophical essence of the Vedas, and he called it Vedanta, the conclusion of the Vedas. He gave, because for us to reach the conclusion by studying the original Vedas is just not possible. That's why we have so many scholars after Vyasadeva, or even during the time of Vyasadeva, there were some scholars who were doing independent study of the Vedas, and they came up with their own theories. What are the teachings of the Vedas? Or what's the goal of the Vedas? Or what's the purpose of the knowledge that is given in the Vedas? So different philosophers, they have their own explanations. They have their own theories. They have their own understanding. And the ones who are very relatively more intelligent than the common people, they have presented their theories, their philosophy in a very authoritative way. So, the acharyas have classified this prominent sages' theories as Shad Darshana. Shad Darshana. 6 philosophies based on the original Vedas. Based on the original Vedas. Shad Darshan. Out of these, the acharyas teach us that the Vedanta Darshana presented by Vyasadeva, Veda Vyasa, is the correct understanding of the Vedas, is the correct conclusion of Vedic knowledge, Vedanta philosophy. So Vedanta philosophy, as presented by Vyasadeva, is presented by Vyasa in the form of what is called as Upanishads. So Upanishads is the philosophical essence of the Vedas. So study of the Vedas means to study the Upanishads. Whereas in the Shad Darshana, the other 5 philosophies presented by great sages, who studied the Vedas and have come to their own conclusion, their own understanding they have presented. So these other sages, Vyasadeva points out, are actually incomplete in their understanding of the Vedas. So their conclusion is either you can say incomplete or it's imperfect. They are unable to ascertain properly what is the goal of the Vedas or what is the essence of the Vedic knowledge. Because so vast it is. At least for the common people, unless they are given the essence, they will never be able to study the Vedas and come to any conclusion or understand anything. What is the purpose? What is the goal? What is the conclusion? So therefore, the Vyasadeva has given us the perfect conclusion by analyzing the other 5 philosophies and pointing out what is correct and what is incomplete in each of the 5 philosophies. This is the greatest work of Vyasadeva, analyzing the other 5 darshanas. And where has he done this? In what he presents the most concise compilation of Vyasadeva, Vedanta Sutra. It's called Vedanta Sutra. So he has just given about, I think, 525. This figure I am not sure. I remember reading some such figure. And of course, scholars have different numbers. How many sutras are there in the Vedanta Sutra compiled by Vyasadeva? 525 sutras. He has given the essence of the Vedic knowledge. But then, who can understand these 525 sutras? They are very, very short aphorisms. In English, they are called aphorisms. In Sanskrit, they are called sutras. Atato Brahma Jignasa, the very first sutra. Who can understand this? Even the greatest Vedic scholars cannot understand properly. They may give some meaning or explanation, but they cannot explain. So Vyasadeva himself, after compiling this short compilation, 525 sutras, he has explained them in the form of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, Krishna spoke the Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna in just 45 minutes. So Bhagavad Gita itself is presented by Vyasadeva also as the essence of the Mahabharata. Now, what is this Mahabharata? Vyasadeva compiled, after compiling the original Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasadeva has also compiled the teachings of the Vedas in the form of Itihasas and Puranas. See, the extent of work Vyasadeva has done is impossible for any human being, impossible for any devata, any saint, any sage, any great learned scholar, Vedic scholar. It's impossible. So therefore, when the scriptures describe Vedas as apaurusheya, that means Vedas are not the work of any created being. They are not the work of any human being. They are the work of God, Supreme Lord Himself. But God in his incarnation as Vyasadeva, has given us the Vedas. Only God can give us. Nobody else can give us the Vedas. So he has given us the Vedas in that form. But he also has given the conclusion of the Vedas in the form of Vedanta Sutra. He also has given us the teachings of the Vedas in a very easily understandable way by presenting the Itihasas and Puranas. Itihasa means history. Some historical narrations he has given in the form of Itihasa and Purana. Itihasa is some specific historical narration, just like the Ramayana is Itihasa. Of course, Ramayana is not presented by Vyasadeva, it's presented by Valmiki Rishi. So Valmiki has compiled the Ramayana, history of the incarnation of the Supreme Lord as Rama. So the historical narration of Lord Rama is there in the Ramayana. This is called Itihasa. It's part of the Vedic literature called Itihasa, history. Now this history of Lord Rama, it's a nice presentation by Valmiki as a wonderful story of a very, very extraordinary personality called Rama, who actually was living sometime in Treta Yuga, who appeared in Treta Yuga, and was living for some length of time, and he performed extraordinary activities. So the life of Lord Rama, the biography of Lord Rama, you can say, is given by Valmiki in the form of Ramayana. But this Ramayana is not merely another biography, because so many biographies are there of great people, written by so many authors, very nicely. This is not just another biography, it is actually the teachings of the Vedas. So the entire Vedic knowledge, the teachings, is wonderfully presented by Valmiki Rishi simply in the form of a nice story. So this is a great work of Valmiki. Similarly, Vyasadeva has compiled the Mahabharata, Itihasa in the form of Mahabharata. And that Mahabharata is a story of the Pandavas and Kauravas, some Kshatriyas in a particular Kuru dynasty. So their story, their biography is given in the Mahabharata. But Mahabharata is again not another biography, it is actually the teachings of the Vedas given in the form of this wonderful form of story of two dynasties actually, stemming from the Kuru dynasty, the Pandavas and Kauravas. So their story is actually the teachings of the Vedas. Now, Vyasadeva also compiled not only the Mahabharata, the original Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra, but he also compiled the Puranas. Puranas is also history, but Puranas are giving the teachings of the Vedas in terms of 10 specific topics. 10 specific topics. So the Puranas contain the explanation of the Vedas, the teachings of the Vedas, divided into 10 topics. So Bhagavatam is one of the Puranas compiled by Vyasadeva. He compiled 18 Puranas and 18 Upapuranas. So the Bhagavatam contains 10 topics, and among these 10 topics, the most important topic of the Bhagavatam is the subject matter of the absolute truth, samam bonum. In one verse, Shukadeva Goswami summarizes the 10 topics of the Bhagavatam. Atra sarga visargascha sthanam poshanam utayaha manvantareshanu katha nirodho muktirashrayaha. Ashraya, the ultimate shelter for everything, the ultimate source of everything, the absolute truth, is the 10th topic of the Bhagavatam, or all the Puranas, the 10th topic. Now, in describing the absolute truth, it is described in terms of 9 categories, and the 10th topic is the substance, the truth itself. So it's a very philosophical presentation. But again, Bhagavatam, the wonderful thing about Bhagavatam is, these 10 topics have been presented in all the Puranas, in fact, presented as some historical narration of some historical incidents which are nicely presented by Vyasadeva. So, Bhagavat Purana, Vishnu Purana, Garuda Purana, Skanda Purana. Now again, these 18 Puranas have been divided into 3 divisions. 6 Puranas for people who are predominantly in the mode of ignorance, tamasic people. 6 Puranas for Rajasic people, and 6 more Puranas for Sattvic people. See the work Vyasadeva has done. It's impossible for anybody to do so much work. Only because he is an empowered incarnation of the Supreme Lord, he was able to do it in a very, very short time. So, this Bhagavata Purana contains, of course, a description of the absolute truth. But the description is presented in such a way that there is a detailed narration by Vyasadeva about the incarnation of Krishna. Now, incarnations are described in all the Puranas. Great devotees have been described in all Puranas. The activities of the Lord in the spiritual world, in the material world, in the form of his incarnations, is all described in the Puranas as historical narrations. But the Bhagavatam is presenting particularly, Bhagavatam is presenting the narration about Krishna. And it's not that narration of Krishna is only there in the Bhagavatam, it's there in many Puranas. In the Mahabharata also it's there. But the Bhagavatam presents the explanation of the Vedanta Sutra while Vyasadeva is giving us the narration of the history of the incarnations, different incarnation, including the detailed narration of the incarnation of Krishna, the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam. So, Krishna performed this leela of showing the universal form in his mouth to Mother Yashoda, but the conclusion of that pastime narration is this verse, today's verse. Why I explain all this is, he is giving the explanation of the absolute truth. Krishna is the absolute truth. The ultimate reality is God. And that understanding of God progresses for those who study the Vedas and progress in their search for the absolute truth, in their self-realization business. They progress. They go through stages. So the stages are described here. First of all, as Prabhupada says here, when a human being enters into the study of the Vedas to obtain vidya, knowledge, he begins to take part in human civilization. That means human life is meant for getting this knowledge, for studying the Vedas. That's the purpose of human form of life. So the Vedas are meant for the human beings. Among all the creatures in the creation, these Vedas are meant for the human beings. They have to study the Vedas. So when somebody begins studying the Vedas, then they have entered into human civilization. Then further advancement of the study of Vedas, one studies the Upanishads, because Upanishads is the Vedanta. So the conclusion of the Vedas is Upanishads, the philosophical essence of the Vedas. It clearly explains what is the goal of the Vedas. Goal of the Vedas is to understand the ultimate truth, ultimate reality, as also called Atma Vidya or Brahma Vidya, Atma Jnana, Brahma Jnana, self-knowledge. So this Upanishads give us the Brahma Jnana or Atma Jnana. And that leads to what is called as impersonal realization of the absolute truth. The absolute truth is realized in 3 stages: Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. So this Brahman is the beginning of understanding of the absolute truth or God or the ultimate reality. And then further advances into Sankhya Yoga to understand the supreme controller of everyone and everything. That is the Paramatma, the Lord in the heart of every living being. Paramatma. That Paramatma realization by further study of Sankhya Yoga, Sankhya philosophy. And then one finally comes to understand the absolute truth as Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by coming to the stage of studying the Vaishnava literature, the literature concerning the explanation of Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, Bhagavan. So, when one comes to the stage of understanding the absolute truth as Bhagavan, one has come to the highest understanding of the absolute truth in terms of the 3 features, Brahman, Paramatma and Bhagavan. The ultimate understanding is Bhagavan understanding. But then one has to progress further in knowledge of Bhagavan. Who am I? Who is God or Bhagavan? And what is my relationship? So the real progress in understanding of the absolute truth is coming to the stage of understanding Bhagavan, but progressing further to understand what is my relationship with Bhagavan. Which means that one has to properly understand who am I, who is God, and what is my relationship. So knowledge of Bhagavan actually gives us this understanding, which is not very clear in the knowledge of the absolute truth as Brahman and Paramatma. So Brahman understanding and Paramatma understanding is incomplete, imperfect understanding of God or the absolute truth, ultimate reality. Bhagavan is the complete understanding. But in Bhagavan understanding, one understands 3 things. Who am I? Who is God? And what is my relationship with God? Now when this understanding becomes very clear, the relationship of everyone, each and every individual living being with God, Krishna, the absolute truth, Bhagavan, is that I am an eternal servant of Krishna. And in that knowledge of the relationship a servant. What kind of servant? Not the kind of servant we have in the material world. Material world, you have relationship with servant and master. Not that kind of servant. Not a slave. But actually a loving servitor of the Supreme Lord, Krishna or Bhagavan, out of love for him. This is very important. This is what is called as bhakti. Bhakti means understanding I am eternal servant of the Supreme Lord Krishna, and my relationship with Krishna is one of love. And in that loving relationship, there are specific activities called activities of bhakti. Bhakti means activity. Activity with the understanding of the relationship. Just like a boy gets married to a girl, then the relationship just begins with that marriage ceremony. At least that's the explanation of the Vedas in the scriptures. So, the relationship begins means activities in that relationship begin with marriage. That's the meaning of beginning of the relationship. Similarly, our understanding of ourself and God begins with understanding who am I, who is God, and what is my relationship. So when the beginning of the understanding the relationship, I am a servitor of God. So what is my service to God? What are the activities in that relationship? So Sambandha is the beginning of the perfect knowledge of the Vedas, or the conclusion of the Vedic knowledge. Then Sambandha leads to Abhideya. Abhideya means what are the activities in that relationship? It's like after marriage, the activities begin. The girl understands, I am wife of such and such a person now. Or the man understands, I am a husband of this lady. So then there are activities in that relationship. Wife has to do play her role as wife. The husband has to play his role as husband. So the activities begin. And the activities lead to prayojana. The ultimate conclusion or the purpose of those activities is described as prayojana. Prayojana means the ultimate conclusion, that is establishing that loving relationship. Establishing, become situated in those, in that loving relationship. The culmination is loving devotional service, prema, realizing that love. So this is the culmination of all Vedic knowledge, of all Vedic teachings, of all Vedic rituals, of all Vedic processes. And that prema bhakti is the highest stage in which Yashoda is situated. So Yashoda has nothing more to make progress in her service. She has reached the ultimate perfection of devotional service. So this prema bhakti is the highest. That's what is being explained by Vyasadeva here. So let's stop here. Grantharaj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So the coming Saturday, 24th of January, we are having Krishna Balaram Rath Yatra. So the Rath Yatra begins from Kote Anjaneya Swami temple, palace temple. 4:30 p.m. inauguration. Then there will be the Ratha Yatra. Start pulling the Ratha after the inauguration. We will reach this temple through our standard route that we follow every year. And please come for the Ratha Yatra. Pull the Ratha. Have darshan of the Lord on the Ratha. Rathastham Keshavam Drishtva Punarjanmana Vidyate. This is the statement of the Shastra. If you have darshan of the Lord Krishna and Balaram on the Ratha, then Punarjanmana Vidyate, you are able to conquer this repetition of birth and death, which otherwise through other methods of self-realization, it takes a long time and it is very, very tedious process. Simply by having darshan of Krishna and Balaram on the Ratha, you are able to conquer birth and death. You are able to get liberation from the bondage of material existence. So please come, pull the chariot, do some seva for Krishna and Balaram, have darshan of Krishna and Balaram, partake of the kirtan accompanying this Ratha Yatra procession, take prasadam, it will be distributed to everyone who comes for this Ratha Yatra. Then on 25th of January, the next Sunday, we are having Sri Advaita Acharya's appearance day. It is Magha Shukla Saptami, one of the incarnations of the Lord as his devotee, Advaita Acharya, incarnation of Mahavishnu. He appeared at the time of Chaitanya's appearance. Krishna's appearance is Chaitanya. So his appearance day is Magha Shukla Saptami, that we are celebrating that day. We are fasting till noon. And it is also the day after the Ratha Yatra. So we also have Churna Abhisheka for Krishna and Balaram at 10:30 a.m. So after our morning program, usual Sunday morning program, we'll have Churna Abhisheka at 10:30. You are invited for this also. Then on Friday, 31st January, we are celebrating Nityananda Trayodashi, Lord Nityananda's appearance day. So program is from 6 p.m. in the evening. Abhishekam, Kirtan, Arati, Prasadam. So you're invited for this also. Hare Krishna. Okay, volunteers who are registered for Seva during Ratha Yatra, please collect your volunteer badges from the Volunteer Care Center, Volunteer Desk. Where is that? It's in one of the counters outside. Okay, Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.